Hello guys. One more important document has been uploaded in PIB website that's related to the labor force participation, employment scenario, and worker to population ratio, etc. You see, this is part of the periodic labor force survey that will be conducted by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. According to this report, the data is available monthly and quarterly. Okay, so one such quarterly report is available to us. Okay, the survey has been conducted. We will see the details of the survey. Okay, so the highlights are there of the survey. I will come back to these highlights later. First, we will see the details. Then we will come back to this highlights, takeaway points. Okay, little bit we will know about the survey. You see this periodic labor force survey. This is conducted by NSO, National Statistical Office, MOSPI. It is the primary source of data on activity participation and employment unemployment conditions in the country. Okay, so this has been ever since the survey has been introduced, it has become the primary and a very important source of this labor force participation, and also to give the picture about employment and unemployment scenario. Okay, you see, there have been some changes made to this survey since Jan 2025. You see, to reflect or to give picture about the rural areas also. So methodology of this survey has been changed. Okay, there is a change to the methodology of the survey. Okay, so in this revamped survey, it was done to give some things, to denote some things. They are, first thing is to generate key employment and unemployment indicators, namely such as labor force participation rate, worker to population ratio, then unemployment rate. Okay, to do this and to extend the quarterly periodic labor force survey results to rural areas also. Earlier, they were only available for the urban areas. Now they'll be available for the rural areas also. Then to provide annual estimates of key employment and unemployment indicators for both usual status and current weekly status for rural areas and as well as urban areas. So the methodology has been changed to make all these things realized. Okay, you see earlier some history we will say. Earlier, periodic labor force survey quarterly bulletins released up to December 2024. Since then, okay, the figures are actually indicators are there only for urban areas, but the bulletin for April to June 2025 onwards, it marked the first in the series to provide estimates for both rural and urban areas. And the current bulletin, this pertains to October to December 2025, is the third in this series. Okay, you see, one more thing is this quarterly bulletin presents estimates of key labor force indicators such as LFPR, labor force participation rate, including female labor force participation rate, WPR, worker to population ratio, then unemployment rate, and also the distribution of workers by broad employment status and industry of work, where they are actually working. Okay. Now we will come to the actual data. You see, all the findings are for persons of age 15 years and above. You keep this in mind. Okay. And particularly, we are observing the data for 3 quarters. Okay. April, May, June, July, August, September, April, May, June. Okay. First quarter in this financial year. Then July, August, September, second quarter. Then since then till December, third quarter. Okay, so these things, fundamental things, you try to remember. Okay, first thing is labor force participation rate witnessed modest increase. Okay, so if you see the overall labor force participation rate for persons during, remember everything we are seeing for the purpose persons of age 15 years and above. Okay, this witnessed an increase of or increased to 55.8% during the present quarter or just the previous quarter, October to December, compared to 55.1% in the previous quarter, that is July, August to September. Okay. Then if you bifurcate it to rural and urban areas, in rural areas, it increased to 58.4% in the present quarter from 57.2% in July September quarter. Okay. Similarly, if you see the two urban areas, it remained broadly steady during the same period. Okay, means there is no increase, and at the same time there is no decrease also. The same is depicted in the graph you can see here. So in April, May, June quarter, 57.1 something. But by this quarter, quarter 3, October, November, December, it rose to, this is for rural areas, it rose to 58.4%. In if you see it in urban areas, the first quarter, it was 50.6%. But for the third quarter, it slightly declined, 50.4%. Overall figures also you can see. In the first quarter of this financial year, 55% is the labor force participation rate. Then it slightly rose to 55.8% in the third quarter. Next, another important statistic we will see, that is something related to female labor force participation rate. You see a lot of discussion is going on around the female labor force participation rate, that it has to be increased, it's a very low, etc. So one positive thing is that this survey is saying that it showed the female labor force participation rate showed an upward trend, increased to 34.9% in October-December quarter, compared to 33.7% in the previous quarter, okay, second quarter. You see, this is actually driven by increase in the female LFPR in rural areas. It increased to 37.5% in the third quarter from July, September. Sorry, it rose to 39.4% in October, December quarter, third quarter, from 37.5% in the just previous quarter or the second quarter. Okay. However, the not so happy thing is the female labor force participation rate in urban areas, it remained stable. Okay, so that you can grasp here. First quarter 25.6%, second quarter 25.8%, third quarter 25.5%. Okay, rural areas, you see there is some increase, some notable increase from 37% to 39.4%. Overall, also you can see first quarter it was 33.4%. It rose to 34.9% in the third quarter. Okay, overall female labor force participation rate. Okay, so that is what is mentioned in this box also. Okay, then next area we will see rise in workforce. Okay, so if you see overall worker to population ratio or worker population ratio, simply WPR, for persons of age 15 years and above, it rose to 53.1% in the third quarter compared to 52.2% in the second quarter. Okay, that is July to September. This is mainly once again driven by increased workforce participation rate in rural areas. So whatever the increases that are there in these indices that are predominant, that happened predominantly because increase in the rural areas. Okay, then if you see overall WPR of female, okay, if you see them, it continued to improve during the quarter, this quarter, October to December, as compared to the last two quarters, reflecting a positive shift in women's engagement in workforce, which is actually desirable for the economy also. Okay, so that you can see in the graphs below, worker participation rate or ratio in current weekly status, CWC, for male persons. Okay, overall if you see, it rose from 73.1% to 73.9%. For females, if you see, it rose from 31.6 to 33 1, okay, which is desirable thing. So worker population ratio, uh, okay, it has improved, which is a good thing. Okay, then overall also we can see 50 from 52% worker population ratio to it rose to 53.1%. Okay, then we will see important one more important data, that is unemployment rate. Okay, that it declines. You see the unemployment rate, it in rural areas it declined to 4% in the third quarter from 4.4% in the previous quarter, that is second quarter. It's mainly driven by reduction in unemployment rate for both rural male and female. So in both males and females, rural areas there is decline in unemployment rate. Okay, then if you see the urban unemployment rate, it also decreased to 6.7% compared to 6.9% in the previous quarter, driven by a decline in urban male employment rate from 6.2% okay, in July September to 5.9% in the current quarter. Okay, so in urban males also the unemployment rate declined. Okay, so that same thing you can see um, in April, urban male, urban female, urban person. So uh, it was 6.8% in April to June, 6.9%. Overall urban areas, if you see, it was 6.9%. It declined to 6.7% in October to December quarter. Okay. Then another important feature or data is self-employment experienced a rise in both rural and urban areas. You see, many people are there in our country who are running a small business, and they are the owners of the business, and they are also the workers in the business. Those people are called as self-employment. One peculiar feature of our economy is high presence of these self-employed workers. Okay, that you will see in the data. You see self-employed persons, if you see in rural areas, it increased to 63.2%. Very substantial number of people in rural areas are self-employed, means they are the workers, they are the owners. You know, all the farmers, they will come into the this category, and people who are running small businesses like kirana stores. Okay, a small shop, maybe plying an auto rickshaw, maybe involved in dairy activity, etc. Many activities are there. All these people will come under the category of self-employment. Okay, anyhow, it increased to 63.2% in the third quarter from 62.8% in the second quarter. Okay, that is July to September quarter. If you take that in urban areas, here also it reported as 39.7% during the third quarter compared to 39.3% during the second quarter. Okay, July to September quarter. So there is slight increase of 0.4 percentage points. Okay, that same thing you can see. Uh, this is a percentage of distribution of persons. Okay, it's in rural areas. So 63.2% of the all the workers are, they are self-employed. 14.8% of them are regular wage or salaried employees. Then the remaining 22.1% of the labor are casual labor. Very unfortunate, 22% of the people are casual labor. Okay, means they are informal. They have to look for work on daily basis. They don't know tomorrow they will get the work or not. So many problems are there with the casual labor. Maybe at appropriate time we will discuss about that. Then same thing you can observe for rural area, urban areas. In urban areas, 39.7%, roughly 40% of the people are self-employed. 49.1% of the people are regular wage or salaried employees. Obviously, you can understand urban areas, more employment opportunities will be there. So they can get a work, they can get the work which is regularly paid. Okay, and 11.2% are casual, once again casual labor. Okay, 11.2% of the workforce in urban areas is casual labor. So very important data you try to remember. In rural areas, the self-employment mode is dominating, whereas in urban areas, regular wage or salaried employment is dominating. Okay. Right. Another important statistic or data is concentration of rural workforce in primary sector and the urban workforce in tertiary sector. So majority of the workforce in rural areas, it is engaged in primary sector, means agriculture and allied activities. Whereas in urban areas, it's there in tertiary sector, means in the service sector. So the rural areas maintained the similar pattern, that is majority of the workers are engaged in the agriculture sector, accounting for 58.5%, okay, during the third quarter, that is October to December quarter, which has actually an increase from 57.7% in the previous quarter. So you may think this is not a good news, that more and more people are further engaged in agriculture. The idea is that somehow we have to bring these people and bring people who are engaged in agriculture. We have to somehow bring or provide livelihood to them in the non-farm sector. That is the idea. That is how actually we can address the distress that is there in the agriculture. Excuse me. But unfortunately, more and more people are going into agriculture or started depending on agriculture, which is not a good news actually. Okay, the idea is to provide more and more livelihood in the non-farm sector, okay, and not in the farm sector. Okay, so we will discuss about it at the appropriate time, but for the time being, you remember that. Okay, and if you see for the urban areas, the tertiary sector remained stable, engaging around 61.9% of the workers during the third quarter. Okay, so the same thing you can see agriculture sector, secondary sector, okay, with the mining and quarrying, and tertiary sector. So this is the percentage of distribution of workers in for rural areas. Okay, so 58.5% are engaged in agriculture sector, 20.9% are engaged in secondary sector, and 20.6% are engaged in tertiary sector or service sector. Same data you can see for urban workers. 6.7% of them are engaged in agriculture related activities, 31.5% industry, 61.9% they are there in the tertiary sector or service sector. This is also very important data. You try to remember it. Okay. Then another important aspect that is added to the latest report is using the projected population figures from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The ministry MOSPI tried to get the absolute number of workers also. Okay, that has also been estimated. Okay, so if you see the quarter, for the quarter of July to September, an average of 56.2 crore persons were employed in the country. Okay, among 140 crore people, or if you minus the people who are below the age of 15 years, if you remove them, so 56.2 crore people of the people, number of people, they are employed in the country, comprising 39.6 crore males and 16.6 crore females. This increased to 57.4 crore during the third quarter, that is October December quarter, of which 40.2 crore are males and 17.2 crore are females. Okay, and everything related to this surveys happens only based on samples, so it's not possible to inquire and meet every person and get the data. So it's based on sample only. We collect the sample, we analyze the sample, then we will release the data. So persons surveyed in rural area are 3,21,000. Of course, this is not needed for you. You need not quote the figures that are related to data. Only you have to concern with the data that has come out of this survey. Okay, so anyhow, the people who are surveyed in urban areas are 2,40,000 odd people. Okay, so this is what you have to know about labor force participation rate, unemployment rate, and status of people, sector wise people engaged in various activities, etc., etc. Okay, very important information, you try to remember it. Okay, so this type of data actually you have to focus on and learn and remember, and you have to reproduce in the mains examination, you have to code the data. Okay, then if in prelims always there is a chance that you'll get question on the trends. Okay, so once again you can go through the highlights. Highlighted points are there here, the takeaway points, you can go through the points. Okay, so this is it for today's. See you next time. Until then, you have a very good time. See you next time.